I'm getting y'all right, man. My bad. My bad. Getting y'all right, bruh. Getting y'all right. But you know, this is another video, of course, about Naruto and Luffy. Excuse me. But yeah, man. It's just crazy when I sit here and think about it and I be talking with Naruto fans and One Piece fans, bro. It's like, don't get me wrong, I love Naruto and I love One Piece. But when we get to power scaling, because whether anybody likes it or not, you're a power scaler, whether you like it or not. You just got to accept the fact. You may not be too deep into it, or you may not care to get too deep into it, but somewhere in the back of your mind, even if you're not really too much into power scaling, somewhere in the back of your mind, you're like, nah, that character can't be said character. And that's considered power scaling. But you may, like I said, you may not be too deep off into it where you want to break it down or really just, state your opinions and your reasonings as to why you feel said character is stronger than that character. But it's all in the fun of debating and getting different perspectives and understanding these characters a little bit better and voicing what you feel and stating your opinion and sometimes facts. But everything has to be, when you're debating somebody or debating anybody, you have to come with facts, you have to come with, context and dialogue. Like, it's not hard. People make it harder than what it has to be. You know, I don't know everything about every little anime that I watch or read, but I go, try to learn and try to understand. So I understand these two animes, you know, not as much as anybody else, but I will say to the best of my ability, I understand these characters and these animes more than the average Joe. So when we have these, friendly debates, because it's always going to be friendly on my end. I can't speak on nobody else, but when we have these debates, you know, I really just put out the facts, the context, and I be seeing some of everybody else's takes and whatnot, and I try to analyze where they're coming from and give my reasonings to why I feel X, Y, and Z. Like if I feel like it's questionable, I'm going to state my reasonings and all that. But you know, let's get into like I said, this is probably part three. No, this part four actually of me talking about Luffy versus Naruto. So let's get right into it. So me personally, if we're going to talk about it, the strongest character they fought, and we're going to use, you know, teenage Naruto, of course, and then we'll venture on to, I guess adult Naruto. But to me personally, if we just going, cause it ain't really too much, we can discuss adult Naruto, but even then, he struggled with, I can't think of his name right now, but it's gonna come to me. I cannot think of his name. But we'll start with Kaguya and Madara, of course, when he finally became the Ten Tails. Me personally, I still feel in my hearts of hearts, if it wasn't for plot and you know Kishimoto going the way he wanted to go with it, I feel like Madara would have won against Naruto and Sasuke. Argue with your mama, not with me. But the crazy thing is with that, personally, like I said, it took Night Guy. Night Guy himself alone really was dealing the damage to Madara. It took them to get, Sage of 6 pass power just to actually, go toe to toe with Madara slightly. But my thing is, if we sit here and think about it, Night Guy, when he opened the 8th gate of death, of course, he's shooting out air pressure that, is doing hella damage to Madara and himself. He's literally breaking his bones and tearing his body apart trying to damage Madara, which he did. He achieved that. And Madara acknowledged that. Now, the sheer power that he was pushing out, Sanji can do that with Skywalk. Now, Sanji may not be implementing, the pressure that, Night Guy was putting out to, make all them air pockets and whatnot, but is relatively strong enough to do kick in the air and punch in the air is a hard feat to do, especially if you ain't got the physical raw power to do that. Because Naruto definitely ain't got it, because he hasn't shown it. Sasuke ain't shown it. The only person that showed it was Night Guy and possibly Rock Lee, if he ever was to get to that point of opening or unlocking the 8th gate. And of course, Guy's father, who unlocked the 8th gate. So, I'm not saying that Naruto couldn't learn it. He could possibly learn it. Anybody could have learned those gates. Possibly. Well, I ain't even gonna say possibly. They could have learned those gates. Would I recommend it? Absolutely not. But, like I said, me personally, I just don't feel like Naruto has that it factor to really take Luffy, simply because Luffy could possibly he is doing some of those things that, Sanji and Mike got doing. And Zoro's even done it. They have the physical ability to sit there and punch the air, kick the air, whatever the case may be. And, of course, like I said, Naruto could unlock it, but of course, that will consider him having to die. But, when we sit here and talk about Luffy versus Naruto, like I said, Luffy is light speed. Naruto really ain't been light speed until Madara. And, Luffy been light speed before the time skip, if we just gonna be honest. And then he's only gotten faster. So that's why I genuinely have to give it to Luffy when it comes to speed, because his reaction speed is ridiculous. Naruto's is ridiculous too. That one instant, of course, with Madara, and if I remember correctly, that's the only instant outside of Haku, when he fought Haku, and his mirror little Genkai Gekai. And me personally, even though that's the only two instances I can give Naruto, and then even then that's a stretch simply because he had to rely on the Nine-Tailed Fox power. And a lot of y'all gonna say, hey, he did it still, with the Nine-Tailed Fox, of course. But it's like, if he didn't have the Nine-Tailed Fox, Naruto would be an average Joe, to be honest with you. You can still get him Sage mode and he still be an average Joe. I'm not saying he wouldn't still be great, but his chakra reserves wouldn't be as high as they are without the Nine-Tails, which he lost any fucking way. But We'll continue to get him the nine tails, but I ain't gonna take away y'all nine tail fox from y'all. Naruto got the nine tails. We'll keep that in. We'll keep that now. I ain't gonna handicap him. But even then, like I said, I gotta still give Luffy light speed because he doing light speed feats throughout the whole story. If we just gonna be honest, and then that advanced Haki that Luffy has, he really doesn't have to touch Naruto. Honestly, he could just destroy him with his Conqueror's Haki and Armament Haki. I mean, it literally attacks him from the inside out without him having to touch him. And of course, a lot of y'all gonna say burying mode, but I don't see, me personally, I don't see in a scenario where Naruto unlocks it or activates burying mode for Luffy, especially if it's a friendly fade or it's just a fight. They just sparring, or Luffy. The only way I see him unlocking it if Luffy just literally on some I'm finna destroy the world type thing, and I don't, or destroy the Hidden Leaf Village type thing, and Luffy just wilding, taking folks out. That's the only way I see Naruto tapping into Baryon mode and using that to go for Luffy. And then with Gear 5, it's so unpredictable. Like Naruto can literally sit there and use a Biju bomb. Luffy literally can turn that to rubber. Like, of course, Luffy ain't got nothing but 5 to 10 minutes with Gear 5. But once he fully, unlocks and masters that, then what? What will your answer be then? But even at 5 to 10 minute range, that's a lot of time. It may not feel like a lot of time to us, but 5 to 10 minutes is a long time if you think about it. But, like I said, Naruto probably put up a decent fight, but that Gear 5 is really unpredictable, bro. It's unpredictable. And then, me personally, Naruto and Luffy's durability and endurance are completely different. Don't get me wrong. Naruto died in the fourth Great Ninja War and got brought back. But Luffy, and you don't get me wrong, that war it took in probably 24 hours to 30 hours a day, almost two, for the fourth Great Ninja War. And but if we just gonna be honest, Naruto ain't spent but 24 hours in that war versus Luffy spending almost 31 to 34 hours from Impel Down to Marine Ford. Now, granted, 20 some of them hours, Luffy was poisoned and he had to rely on his own willpower and endurance of that poison and torture that he went through. Naruto's not doing that. I'm sorry. Yeah, Naruto's out of there. If we just gonna be honest, Naruto's out of there. Him taking poison for 20 hours, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He's finito. And then, like we got top tier physical powers. Like Naruto, he got some very destructive, hacks and abilities in his arsenal. He do. But I just don't see it being enough to just take out Luffy. Because Luffy's dealt with blast breath from Kaido, a goddamn, you know, He a blast breath from Kaido. Some of Kaido's strongest attacks at that. Thunder Bagua and the Flame Emperor from Kaido. Like those feats alone. And if we just gonna, take it a step further and get into spoilers, Emu. He's taking crazy damage right now from Emu. But hey man, like I always say, y'all, get in the comments, like the video too. Get in the comments, tell me what y'all think, man. I really want to hear you guys' opinions and thoughts on this. Like, no cap. Cause I just feel like Luffy's that guy. I'm not just saying he solos Naruto, well, the Naruto verse, but more often than not, he's winning against Naruto. That's what I'm saying in so many words. But y'all jump in the comment sections. Let's have a friendly conversation. Don't get into being disrespectful. But make sure you like, comment, share, and also subscribe. I need you to subscribe and like, but subscribe for real, so we can grow the Taylor familiar. Other than that, man, I'll catch y'all on the next vid. Peace.